Weird and unexplained things happen all over the world. One of my favorite things to do is sit around a campfire and talk about real-life scary stories with my family and friends. The fact that I trust their experiences adds a special level of fear, since I can tell that when they tell the story, they're being dead serious. Today, we're going to hear 2 user-submitted stories and one that I've been told by my grandmother that still sticks with me to this day. I don't remember how long ago this happened, but I do remember that I was in high school, maybe a sophomore or a junior. My dad works as a cop, and his precinct was having a party to celebrate his most recent promotion. He brought my mom with him as his date, which meant my sister and I were home alone for the whole night and wouldn't see my parents until next morning, since usually when they go to these events, they often don't return until way past midnight. My sister and I didn't really do much that night. We watched Kung Fu Panda 2 on HBO and played some games on my family's Wii system that we shared. When it was 9 p.m., my sister and I took our showers, brushed our teeth, and then went to bed. I woke up in the middle of the night, 10 or 15 minutes past midnight to be exact. I then heard a voice say, "Hey," which made me turn around to my bedroom door to see someone standing in between my cracked door. I couldn't make out who it was since it was a black silhouette, but it didn't look human. It looked pretty skinny, and even its arms were as thin as tree branches. His hands had 4 fingers instead of 5 like a normal human being should have, and the head had no hair. His head was also slightly enlarged and was shaped like a potato. It spoke to me, but its voice was deep and slightly distorted, so I couldn't make out what it was saying. I asked, "What?" to try to understand what it was the figure was saying, but it didn't respond. I asked, "What?" once again, but this time a bit louder, and then I saw it slip away from the door crack. Once it was gone, I jumped out of bed and ran into the hallways, turning the lights on to see if anyone was there, but instead, no one. I checked my sister's room, my guest room, my parents' room, and all the bathrooms in the house. I then ran down to the kitchen to get a glimpse out the window. My dad's company car wasn't out there, so that meant they still weren't home, and I probably wouldn't be back for a while. I also checked all the doors to see if they were locked. That was when I came to the conclusion that whatever it was that was inside my house was not human. I did some research after that and began reading stories and watching YouTube videos of people who went through similar experiences. What was inside my house was without a doubt not human due to its deformed body. After digging a little deeper, I came to the conclusion that whoever it was that was in my room was definitely a shadow person. I'm 21 years old now, and whatever happened all those years ago still haunts me. I will never ever forget my own personal encounter with a deformed being. This happened to me about 2 or 3 years ago. It was a peaceful night, and my cousins were over for a sleepover. They wanted to go explore our basement, so I went with them to keep them company. Our basement is basic and unfinished, so there are some creepy areas down there. To set this up, there's one light switch near the basement door and another that's down the stairs. We went on ahead and were down there for maybe 5 minutes, and bam, darkness. I realized that the lights had gone out. Freaked out, I ran over to the switch and flipped it back on. I myself then ran back upstairs and asked my parents if they had turned the lights off. They responded saying that they didn't, and immediately I thought that it was strange given that other than my cousins and I, they were the only other ones in the house. Freaked out, I rushed back downstairs to get my cousins to come back up. At this point, I immediately became even more concerned as I couldn't find them anywhere. Finally, I spotted them hiding next to the fridge, speechless. I told them to run upstairs immediately, and once we got up to safety, I asked them what had happened. Still shaking, they claimed that something or someone had grabbed them and moved them when the lights went out. To this day, they still swear that something was down there with us, and I still will not go into the basement, even if my cats are down there. My grandma told me this story a few years ago, and to this day, it still sticks with me due to her seriousness when she told me it. For this segment, I'm going to tell you how it unfolded from her point of view. I was a little girl, about 5 or 6 years old. My mom, dad, myself, my brother, and my sister all lived out in some land in the hill country in Texas. We had a decently sized house with a front porch adorned with chairs and a swing and open land on the sides and back of the house. One night, I was awoken randomly to the sound of a baby crying on the opposite side of the house. The strange thing was, I didn't have a baby sibling. Curious, I went to go check it out. The sound seemed to be coming from the dining room area, so I went there. After that, the crying stopped, and since I was just a little kid, I was very scared. I then heard a noise outside the dining room window, so I approached it slowly to check it out. Outside of the window was a figure sitting in one of our front porch chairs, but they are moved to the side of the house. The chairs were strangely arranged in a circular formation. It was wearing a dark hood, and I couldn't see its face since it was facing away from me. And then immediately, it turned its head straight toward me and was staring me down. At this point, I screamed and sprinted to my parents' room to wake them up. Immediately, they jumped up and darted to the dining room to look outside the window. They then turned to me confused and annoyed that I had woken them up and told me to go back to bed. Apparently, the front porch chairs were back on the front porch in their normal positions and there were no people in sight. Ever since, I have sworn that what I saw was legitimate and I did not make it up. To this day, the entire situation confuses me, but I think it may have been some sort of being. I guess I will never know. You've just heard 3 true scary stories. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and as always, if you have any suggestions or comments for future content, leave them in a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe for future creepy content, and once again, good night.